Well, good morning, sports fans. It's time for another edition of the Jeff and Jimmy Show. We don't have our analyst here today,
Unfortunately.
so we should get through this quicker.
Yes.
Because, her analytic abilities are so awesome that it prolongs the show.
She provides deep insights.
So, first game up is Liberal and South, or Liberal and North. I think Liberal's going to be too strong.
I do too.
For North as well.
I agree. I'd like to see North win, but they're a little,
Next up is South and West. This is probably going to be a pretty good game, but I'm going to take West in this game.
Giving Pioneers a slight advantage since it's out west.
We then have Southeast and Dodge City. It's in Dodge City. Southeast hasn't really had a very good season. I'm taking Dodge City.
Southeast has taken some pretty good lumps, and Dodge City's having an all right year, so Dodge City.
Next up is Andover and Goddard. Usually this is a really good game every year, but I don't think it's going to be this year. I'm taking the Trojans.
Yeah, Jordan's Lions are struggling, so I too am going with the Trojans.
Next up, we got Valley Center and Eisenhower. I think this is going to be a good game. They're both evenly matched. It's in Eisenhower. Valley Center won last week, so I'm going to take Valley Center in this game.
I think this is a coin toss, and since I didn't take the other Goddard team, I'll take this Goddard team. I'll go with Eisenhower.
Next up, we have Hutch and Mays. Mays is one of those teams this year that I don't know if they're just playing to their opponent's level, because some teams you thought that they would really beat bad, they haven't. They lost to a not very good Arc City team, and then they come out last week and play like they did against Derby. So, but I think Mays is going to be way too strong for Hutch this year.
I agree. You don't know what Mays team you're getting, but they do have that quarterback. He's getting recruited by Notre Dame now, so definitely going to go with Mays in this one.
Next up, we have Derby and Mays South. I think that's going to be another good game. Mays South, lost a crosstown rival. They went to Hayes, was beating them most of the game, and got beat at the end. And Hayes is tough.
They're really tough.
But I think Derby's just going to be too strong for them.
That Derby and Mays game was actually, from what I didn't watch it, but I heard it was one of the best high school football games that's happened in a while.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And Derby stout. Coach Clark does a good job, so I'm going to go with Derby.
Next up, we got Campus and Newton. I'm taking Newton in this game.
Both these teams have had rough seasons in Newton, so I'm going to go with the Railers.
We have Hayes and Northwest. And Hayes is on a roll. And the kid that's being recruited or signed with Clemson. One of my best friends, his son plays for Mays South, and he said he is the real deal.
Right.
And he is their team, without a doubt. And because of what Hayes did to Mays South and end up winning that game, Northwest is a little weaker this year than normal. I'm taking Hayes in this game.
Hayes is stacked. We've talked about it the whole season. Northwest, they're young. They're coming around. We talked about it. Captain Moore's son's the quarterback. He's got some D1 offers. And in the entirety of doing this show, I've never picked against the Grizzlies, so I won't start now.
Next up, we got East at Bishop Carroll. I think this is going to be a good game. East is having a good season. Bishop Carroll, I think, is just going to be too strong.
Carroll's one of the top teams in the state, the Golden Eagles.
Next up, we got Heights and Capon. When we were out there and doing the show out there, how big those kids were, and then they got decimated that game.
They did.
Capon's really good this year. I don't see Heights playing with them. I'm taking Capon.
I agree, going with the Crusaders.
Next up, we got Arc City and Andover Central. Andover Central is stout this year, so I'm going with the Jaguars.
Like you said, that Arc City team's up and down, but I don't think they're going to have enough to bring it against Andover Central.
Wellington and Mulvane is the next game. Mulvane is playing well. I didn't think that they would beat McPherson. McPherson's always tough at home. They're just a tough team to win against, and Mulvane went up there and handled them pretty good. So, got to give Mulvane some credit. I think they're a lot better this year than I gave them credit for at the beginning, so I'm taking Mulvane.
I think they're 5-2 on the year, and in Laura's absence, I will pick the Wildcats.
Next up is Cheney and Larned. Cheney's undefeated. They've been playing really well. Don't think it matters much. It's in Larned. I'm taking Cheney.
Picked against Cheney once this year. Might only do it one other time. I'm not going to pick against them anytime soon. I'm going to go with Cheney.
Next up, we have Clearwater and Heston. This is just a toss-up game. Both teams are pretty equal. Both teams aren't having the seasons that they've had in the past. It's kind of a coin flip. It's in Heston, so I'm going to take Heston.
Home field advantage, give it to Heston.
Next up, we have Blue Stem and Garden Plain. I think Garden Plain's going to win that game.
Yeah, Garden Plain should roll in that one.
We have Collegiate and Andale. This is the battle of the undefeateds. They're number 1 and 2 and 3A. It's in Andale. I don't see this being a close game, personally. Andale has had their number for several years. I think this could be probably one of the game of the weeks for one of the channels, or it should be. You have the number 1 and 2 team in the nation, or in the nation, in the state. But I think Andale's gonna beat them in Andale.
Good plug. Andale, to be honest with you, their schedule hasn't been too tough. This could be the first challenge they faced thus far. Collegiate has a really good quarterback. He's trained by one of the top trainers in the area. He's getting D1 offers. I think it'll be a little tighter than you think, but I still am going to go with Andale.
Yeah, just talking a little bit more about this,
Yeah.
it will by far be the closest game for both of them.
Yeah.
Their league, their district is not very tough in 3A, and so they really haven't played anybody that has given them a really good game.
Sure.
Mulvane did Andale, second game of the season, but again, I just think the Indians are way too strong.
I agree.
This year.
I think they'll be. The quarterback's really good, but I think they'll probably be able to slow them down a little bit, so they'll prevail.
Next up, we got Cedric and Conway Springs. I'm taking Cedric in that game.
This was a tough one. These are two good teams, but I've rode Sedgwick's coattails all year, so I'm going to stay on them.
Moving on to college, we got Oklahoma and Kansas. If it's not 50-0 by halftime, I'd be completely surprised. Obviously, Oklahoma has found their new quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And they are a different team with that kid playing. So this is a no-brainer. It's up in Kansas, but it's not going to matter. I'm taking the Sooners.
I thought Kansas was going to show some progress last week against Texas Tech. It didn't happen, and Tim Meyer stops by my office almost daily to tell me how good their new quarterback is, so I got to go with the Sooners.
Next up, we have Oklahoma State and Iowa State. Oklahoma State's undefeated, cracked the top 10. Iowa State has a couple losses. I'll cover that game a little bit more when we come to the K-State pick. And Brees Hall is had a good game last week. I just think Oklahoma State's going to be too tough, and I got to make up a game on Jim. So I'm taking Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State surprised me last week. I thought they were a bit of a facade, but they brought it against Texas, and they beat a decent Texas team. That really surprised me, but it's in Iowa State. I like Brees the Beast. He's one of my son's buddies, so I'm going with the Cyclones.
Next up, we got West Virginia at TCU. I think this is another kind of toss-up game. Either one could win. It's in TCU, so I'm taking TCU.
I agree. I looked at West Virginia's schedule, and I looked at TCU's schedule, and it being at TCU, I'm going to go with the Horned Frogs.
All right. Last game on the schedule is Kansas State and Texas Tech. Was at that game last week. Very first play, Brees Hall broke off a 75-yarder. It was like we weren't even on the field. It was not a good game. K-State did not perform on either side of the ball. For the first time since we've been doing this, I'm picking against Kansas State. I'm going to take Texas Tech. Now, by doing that, what I'm hoping
I know what you're
is that K-State will turn their season around, beat Texas Tech, and go on and start winning and make a bowl game. So I'm hoping that me being the instigator of he picked against us, we got to go out and win, works.
Kind of like that motivation I used for Scott Frost.
Yeah.
It served me really well.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think this is the first time I always pick against K-State. You always pick K-State, and we flipped. I'm actually going to pick the Wildcats in this one. I looked at Texas Tech's schedule. They have a good record, but they haven't really beat anybody. So I'm actually going to stay with the Kansas team, which I really don't like doing. Kind of actually hurts.
So Nebraska has a bye.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. So can they beat the bye this week?
At this point, I don't know.
I will tell you what's very interesting is the amount of Big Ten teams that are ranked in the top 10. It's pretty amazing.
It is.
There's more top Big Ten teams ranked in the top 10 than SEC, and I don't think I've seen that in years. So Big Ten they're playing good football.
And unfortunately, Nebraska loses to all them top 10 teams by one score.
But they are playing good football, and so
They are.
And it's nice to see that a couple Big 12 teams are right in the mix as well. And I think Oklahoma, they get better on defense with the new quarterback they have. They got a chance.
I've been saying their rating was a little. It's not what it should have
They
been.
were overrated.
They were overrated, but now with this quarterback, they're going to cause some people some problems.
It's gonna. Yeah, I think they have a lot better chance now.
He runs Lincoln Riley's system really well.
Yeah. So, well, with that, hope you enjoyed the show. We didn't razz each other too much because Nebraska's not playing, so tune in next week. It will start over again. But it's supposed to be good weather. There's some really good football games on tap. Go out there, support your kids, support them in band. This day and age, we have a lot of issues going on, and parents need to be out there and supporting their kids in all facets of their life. And so Friday nights, that's Friday night football games, but it doesn't end there. So support your kids and have a good time Friday night.